living with the Amish. My little Amish sidekick was named Lane, and Lane was 4 years old, and he was the grandson of Willis, the Amish sheep farmer I was living with. And Lane's fully Amish, running around with overalls and Amish hat, barefoot. Mr. Carlos, come here, Mr. Carlos, come here. He's, we're going all over the place. He was having a blast, and we live near some Amish here in Nashville. We go down to Etheridge, Tennessee, and I remember when my kids were little, we'd go visit the Amish to get bread or furniture or something, and I'd see these little Amish kids walking by with their little wagons, and I legitimately used to think, oh my gosh, those poor kids. Oh my, like those poor kids. I literally felt bad for them. And then when I lived with the Amish and I'm seeing Lane, and Lane is like, knows everything about horses, everything about farming at 4. He's helping his dad, do horseshoes and all these things. And I pulled out my camera because I had a Sony camera, just so everybody knows. I made a documentary. I had a little camera with me that I would film myself every night talking to it so I could remember when I was writing my book. And I was talking to it, and Lane came by me, and I'll never forget. Lane, no, no, we were in a buggy. Lane goes, "What's that?" And I was like, "Oh, I guess he doesn't understand what's happening." I go, "Oh, this is a camera." And his dad's kind of laughing in the horse and buggy as we're going down. He's like, "That's a camera, Lane." And Lane's like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Well, I'm kind of leaving somebody a message, and then they're going to watch it later." And he just looked at me so confused. And that night, we were sitting by the sorry, the story's a little long, but I think it's so helpful if you think
Right.
about kids. That night we're sitting by the fire. We sit by the fire every night by the they live on a county road, and it's just horse and buggies, and every once in a while like a car will come by, and a car came by with these kids in the back of the minivan, and they were in the back of the minivan. It was like sunset, beautiful sunset, and they were looking at their screens just like my kids were looking at their screens and looking at their screens. But I remembered that was the first time that it switched for me, and I looked at those kids, and instead I thought, oh, poor kids.
Wow.
It was such a shift where I used to look at little Amish kids and I was like, oh, poor kids. And then when I saw them, I literally mumbled to myself, oh, poor kids. And I was like, what just happened to me? What happened to me is the realization that, I think by that point I realized, because I went to the Amish second. At that point I realized, oh, like we're never going to get away from screens, but we definitely can be raising our kids with a little bit more purpose, I think. So yeah, it was a pretty big aha moment for me.
That's profound to happen
Yeah.
in 7 weeks
Yeah.
or 5 weeks, whatever you were into it for. But as you talk about that, it just makes me think like all these health crises that we have. I mean, we
Mm,
could pinpoint there's a whole slew of factors and
yeah.
toxicity in our food and on our environments and medications and all these things. But like ultimately, I think we are so sick because we've disconnected from nature. We are part of
Mm,
nature. Half of our human system is made up of microbes that like
yes.
are deeply connected to our environment and information and everything is exchanging. So as you talk about the Amish's schedule and working with the land and no electricity and like on just in sync with nature's cycles and light and dark and
Yeah.
circadian rhythms, like they are happier and healthier because they're in rhythm with, like you said, Godspeed.
Absolutely. I mean, they're in one of the things that was so intriguing to me about the Amish in particular and their rhythms with nature and rhythms with farming in the earth is how they didn't rely on any sort of external data, what the weather app on their phone or whatever, to like make decisions on farming. Like, we've been waiting to cut the hay. Listen, I'm a city boy, so like the fact that like you have to wait 7 days to cut the hay was like, I was like, why is it taking so freaking long to cut the hay? Like, let's cut the hay. And Willis is like, we got to wait until there's not going to be rain for 2 days, because if you cut the hay and then it rains on the hay before the hay dries, it'll mess up the hay, and then the cows can't eat the hay. So like, there's this whole circle of hay making life I didn't know about. So we've waited 7 days, and it finally, like the day before, it's like not going to rain. I was like, sweet, we're going to cut the hay tomorrow. So I wake up in the morning, it's like thunderclouds outside, and I was like we can't cut the hay today. I was so pissed. And I walked up to Willis and I was like, Willis, bro, like we've been waiting 7 days to cut the hay. Like we can't cut the hay today. Look at the thunderclouds. It's raining like a mile away. He's like, I want you to look at your boots. I was like, what? He's like, look at your boots. And I'm like, what kind of Amish thing is this? So I look at my boots and he's like, what do you see? I go, I don't know, grass clippings. He's like, no, what else do you see? I'm looking and I'm like, they're wet. He goes, exactly. He goes, it hasn't rained here. And my daddy always said, if there's dew on your boots, it's not going to rain. So we're going to cut the hay. And I was like, Yeah, that's cute, but look at the thunderclouds right there, right? So I'm freaking out. Willis is making a grave mistake. All his hay is going to be ruined. I get in the buggy with Kathy and his daughter, and we go a couple miles away to do something. It's pouring rain on us, pouring rain for like hours, dumping rain. We start driving back, and I'm looking at Kathy like, I'm so sorry that your Amish husband made this mistake and didn't listen to this 7 day old farmer. But I told him not to cut the hay, and it's pouring rain. Listen, Kelly, we get half a mile from their farm, and I'm not kidding you. It's like we went through a movie set where it's like a rain machine and then it was just dry. And she's like, the smile on her face lit up. It didn't even rain there. So we pulled into the driveway. This is hours later, and Willis is just standing there with his arms crossed. And I get out and he's like, there was dew on your boots. And I tell that story because like there's an actual connection to the earth. There's an actual rhythm to nature. There's laws that nature gives us that we're ignoring now for the sake of like the weather app on our phone, and it's just like, no, like to tap back into the humanity of who we are and how we're connected to the earth is vital. And I'm telling you, working with these animals, shearing the sheep, working the land, helping them bale the hay, all of these things, I honest to God believe, we talk about the microbiomes and things in our bodies. I think that dirt was getting under my fingernails, into my body, into my blood. And I think that those things begin to heal. And so, yeah, some people listening to this may live in downtown New York and they're like, how can I do this? There are ways. There are literal ways to get back connected to nature. And I think it is vital and a powerful thing that we're missing out on.
I have to imagine your sleep improved
Oh,
like exponentially.
oh my gosh. It was, well, when I was with the Amish, I was just freaking exhausted. Like I was so tired, right? We would drink coffee at 8 p.m. and it didn't even affect us because we worked so hard all day. But yeah, my sleep was amazing. It was probably 4 days of bad sleep at the monastery and then the best sleep of my entire life, especially because again, I wasn't consuming as I go to bed, right? Like as
Mhm.
that really has an effect on how we sleep. And so my sleep was amazing. And again, as you know, and as you've talked about a lot in your podcast and in your books and things, sleep is one of the major contributors to healing in our bodies and in our lives.
Mhm.
And I don't think we pay attention to it as much as we need to.
Yeah. Or we've just kind of adopted this like normal. It's normal to get up at 2 a.m. and have your
Yeah.
mind race for 2 hours, and then you
Yeah.
could maybe get one more hour of sleep in before you wake up. Um, and so how, like, are you going to need, a 7 week fast every year? Maybe you only need 2 weeks quarterly, or like, I mean, two weeks, twice a year. What's your fasting schedule, or how, without
Yes.
without anything drastic, how do you maintain balance now?
Yes, so good. I'm glad you asked that question. Um, you don't have to move to a Amish farm or a monastery in order to pull this off. I did it for you. You can read all about it. What you can do, what everyone can do, that I challenge everyone to do, is to start small. I'm telling you, start small and work your way up. Start small means 1 hour 1 day a week where you are completely disconnected from screen. Like go put your phone in the mailbox. Like put it away. And then the next week I want you to do three. I just want you to keep doubling it. Okay. So start at 2, then go to 4, then go to 8, or you can add 2 hours and do 6. The goal being, I think every single person listening to this podcast, if we can get to one 24-hour cycle continuous a week where we are disconnected from screens, 6 days a week, to your heart's content, Netflix, all the things. But if you can get, and really honestly, that's really only 12 hours because you're sleeping the other 12. So, well, not 12 for most of us, but
Yeah.
if you can get to one 24-hour, so this is what I do every single week. There's one 24-hour cycle of the sun where I don't look at a single screen. I still do it. I'm still a content creator. I'm a podcaster. I'm a YouTube, all the things. I'm making all the videos, but there's one where I'm completely disconnected. And my family, they know that if I'm not with them, it's when I'm with my family, but sometimes it's when I'm without them. I'll make sure to give them ways to get a hold of me if they can. That's everyone's biggest fears. But what if something happens that I need to know about? Listen, from the dawn of humanity up until these phones were created, people spent more than 24 hours disconnected from other people. So if you can do it for 1 day, that's the goal. 1 day a week, every week. Work your way up to it. It may take you a year to get there, but once you get there, what I've found from people that have done this, that have helped them do this, is that 1 day sometimes turns into 2. And then sometimes they're like, we're going to do a whole vacation where for 7 days we don't look at any screens. It just, when you taste life and the goodness on the other side of the screen, it makes you not want to pick up your phone. And so, that, I don't know if I told you this, but when I came home for those 3 weeks with my family and I wasn't on a screen, I did not implement one single rule for my family. Like all my teenagers, I didn't say you have to be off your phone because dad's off your phone. No, they were on Netflix, they were on all the things. But their screen time got cut in half simply because dad wasn't on his phone. So, it's possible. And I think it's actually very healing for all of us to really try to find at least 16 hours of awake time where we don't look at a single screen. That's the goal. And I challenge everyone to do it.
Thank you for listening to the Heal with Kelly podcast. Be sure to tune in every Thursday for more empowering wisdom and inspiring healing stories. And make sure you hit the follow button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss that one episode that holds the answer you've been searching for. Oh, and if you found this episode inspiring, please rate, review, and share Heal with Kelly so that we can grow our audience and reach more people. We truly appreciate it. Lots of love.